And I think at that stage was the time when I just felt really comfortable around my teachers.
Welcome back to Educator University. What if the quietest student in your class is actually fighting the loudest battle? Today, we're talking about the struggles teachers don't always see. Our guest, Avonlea Lighthouse, lived that hidden story. As a child, she endured loss and trauma that no child should ever face. Yet, she turned that pain into purpose, becoming an author, speaker, and advocate who helps others find strength in their scars. She's here to share her journey and to help us as educators better understand students who may be carrying invisible pain. Avonlea, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much for sharing your story today. I think the first question we have is, can you take us back to when you were a little girl walking into school? What did teachers see on the outside and what was really happening on the inside for you?
When I was little in elementary grade level, my teachers were really great. And I think at that stage was the time when I just felt really comfortable around my teachers. The things that were happening at my home was traumatic, but as a little child, I was still processing it. So when I went to school, I completely shut everything down that was happening in my home. So in elementary, I was just completely acting as everything was normal. There wasn't anything going on in my home. I was just a happy child, a really good student. I was a really good child, always pleasing my teachers, got along well with my classmates, was outgoing when it came to like playing in PE and sports. So you really couldn't tell that I was actually having a lot of traumas in my life. But yeah, no, you just couldn't tell because I just felt like I don't know, I just didn't bring a lot of the things that was happening in my home into the school situation.
I think that's kind of what my intro was kind of alluding to. Sometimes our students that are quiet and maybe compliant, they still could be struggling, and we don't know that. And
Mhm.
like you said, because you came to school and you said you were very much like a model student in a way. Is that kind of what you're saying? You came in and you did what you needed to do. You weren't behavior issues, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't really have a lot of problems. I was just a really good student, I would say.
So your experiences at home didn't really spill over into the classroom, but were there things that a teacher might have seen?
Yeah. So, I think because my story is slightly different, I kind of want to emphasize like I was adopted, and when I was 6 years old when I was adopted into America, and so that was around the time that I was having to go to school. And so I had a really good teacher that recognized the signs that I was falling behind. It made sense because I was my sister, so I was adopted with two other sisters into the same household. And what this one particular teacher did, she was just amazing. She just encouraged us to and just like pushed us. So like after school, she would do certain lessons with us and then encourage us. Hey, if you get so much answers right, then I will put so much money in this jar. And eventually, this um, encouraged us to really process our learning skills much quicker, and it was so much fun. And she always did a lot of fun things to get us to move ahead to be able to be with our peers at that age because we just barely was adopted. My oldest sister was 9 years old, and my middle sister was 8 years old, and I was 6 years old. And so, yes, we came with six different dialects, and so we had to really learn English in a way because nobody in the small town knew this language, and we had to really feel like we were like meshed in into the society. So we were motivated to learn English pretty fast, and with the help of our teacher, she really was pushing. She was amazing. She just went out of her way to make things right. So she really did give us some sort of award. And after we accomplished so much award, she took us to the big city and for just a few days and just enjoyed that. outdoors of this certain city it had to offer. We went to the museum just so that we can be able to have something that we worked hard for and it was an accomplishment and we were rewarded for it. And it just made us happier and we continue to see it. I felt we continued to see education on a better in a better way instead of struggling.
And a piece that you were not a native English speaker is such an important piece too, because you probably felt, I'm guessing, a little bit just confused if you didn't know what was going on in the classroom. And to have a teacher that comes in and makes you feel smart and makes you feel appreciated and seen is such a huge piece of that puzzle. So
Yeah. Yeah. It made a really big difference. And I did struggle later on because in my family there was this golden child and she was praised, she was and as I was starting to learn, my sister so my parents I gotta clarify, my parents adopted 14 kids, and they had raised 3 boys way before they adopted the rest of the 9 children, and so there was a child that was the same grade age as I am, and she just happened to be the golden child, and her my mom just adored her, gave her everything that she wanted, praised her, and rewarded her for all the effort when it came to, like, her education and stuff. And so that kinda really pushed me to wanna be better because I'm like, "Okay, that is how I could try to get my mom's love, is she's all about education." She's really proud of my sister, and she's really proud of her grade that she was getting. She was excelling, she was smart. So I had a lot to catch up on her with her. And so I would, like, really push myself to really focus, but I had dyslexia, and so I was getting a lot of things confused, a lot of numbers confused, and things that I would say wasn't like my mind wasn't registering with what would come out. And so I was struggling in many ways. So I had like a few teachers that would stay after school with me and like really focus on my reading, focus on my math because of this dyslexia. Then after like as I think 6 months after being adopted, and I wasn't excelling, my teachers would tell my mom like, "Hey, there's something going on with her." Like I was excelling in a lot of other ways, but just not really understanding the grasp of it. On the surface level, I would be able to understand it and um, just take care of it and then just pass with flying colors on the surface. But just honing the skill, I wasn't taking it in. Like I would forget in a few days, and my teachers would have to um, teach me, and so that was a concern for my teachers and would tell my mom. So what my mom ended up doing is she would take me into the basement and give me all this lessons that I had to learn, and she wouldn't teach me. So each child is very different at learning, and I'm very much of the visual learner. If somebody were to explain to me how it's done in a certain way, then I could pick things up easily. Um, and but she didn't do that. She just put me down in the basement, gave me lessons, and said I needed to read through them and just complete it at a certain time. And I would just sob and cry. And I think that's what brought a lot of anxiety to me during that time is I wasn't measuring up to my sister, and there was a lot of pressure to for me because she would put a lot of pressure, like, "Hey, you're not up here, but here." You need to keep trying. You can't go play. You can't do anything. So she would withhold all the fun stuff from me and make me still learn. And that was really hard.
yeah, it sounds like when you were home, learning was very much seen as almost a punishment, it sounds like in a way,
It was.
versus at school, there were teachers that kind of gave you a light into that learning could be fun, but it was hard if,
Hmm.
like you said, you had dyslexia and things that were struggles. So that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense that there was a lot going on. So can you talk a little more about what was going on at home? You wrote a book from Scars. I'm skipping ahead, sorry. Your book is called From Strength to Scars.
Hmm.
And you talk about how you were able to change the way you saw yourself as a person and kind of what you went through. Can you share a little bit about what you wrote about and what that looks like for you?
Yeah. So, Strength of Scars, I wrote this book because of what I went through, the traumatic events that I went through, and like, how I stayed positive during those times. And I think what really helped me is one thing I was adopted into a religious family, so I kind of knew God. And so, like, I knew that I could pray to him. Like, knowing that God was there, that was one big thing. And then the second thing is I'm very competitive in my spirit. Like, if there's something I can't do, then I will do my very best to try to achieve it, especially if my peers are up here and I'm down here. Like, I don't like being down here. And so I will do whatever I can to try to get up here. And so uh, with my mom, she was one of those people that would suppress me really deeply, and even if I, like, succeeded a little, she would take that success and drop it down. And so it would hurt me a lot because I didn't get valued for my efforts from her, but I started seeing the patterns that if my other sisters were getting praised and they were getting bumped up, they were getting up bumped up and they were getting praised and they would get rewarded. And it didn't matter how much I tried or the efforts I put in, like, she would never acknowledge those efforts. So I just got to that point where I realized that the person that's gonna hold me back was her, but also me. If I allowed her to, keep letting me fall, and I use that more as a strength. I told myself, "You know what? She does not want me to succeed. It's pretty apparent she does not want me to succeed. I'm gonna do whatever in my power, and I'm gonna show up, and I'll do it." And that's what I did. I used her as a reason to keep pushing myself and showing her like I could keep going. And yes, she never ever acknowledged any of my efforts, but I did use her as a tool. I used her to suppressing me as a way to keep lifting me, and I chose to. It's just it comes down to the mindset. You're gonna always have people in your life that's gonna be bullies. You're gonna have people in your life that's gonna tear you down and that doesn't want to acknowledge you. You're gonna have people in your life that's gonna see potential in you, but don't want to see you reach those potentials. And so those kind of when you have those kind of thoughts and you realize that hey, there's those kind of people are gonna be in your life. Use it for your advantage. Use it to those people are not going to think highly of me, but you know what? That's going to motivate me. I'm going to prove to them, I'm going to prove to myself that I can and I will. And that's really what I did. And when I wrote this book, I actually didn't ever want to write this book because I was exposing a lot of vulnerable state in my life, and it's quite sensitive and it's quite sad. But I just know that there's so many people hurting. It doesn't matter like what age you are, you're always going to have moments in your life where life just hits you really hard. And some it's just constantly. Others it comes and go. But if we have a different mindset and approach and you see it as a challenge, it kind of changes the perspective on how you can overcome something. It makes the challenging a little bit more copable. And so I wrote this book because not that I have physical scars from my childhood of trying to save my mom from a house fire. Sadly, she passed away, but then I also have internal. And most of us have internal damages, which are scars. And scars is something that's really should be something we should be proud of. If we took a shark attack and somebody has a huge scar from a shark bite, people would look at that person and say, "Hey, you were really brave." A scar is a visual thing that shows bravery, that you endured something, you survived it. But internal scars are just as detrimental, even probably worse, because it's invisible. You can't see it. But the way you react and the way you overcome it is your attitude and your mindset and the drive that you have. And by your actions alone, people will see by your fruits. And so if you have like a positive outlook in your trials and you just persevere, you're going to just do so much better. People are going to see you as an inspiration, and that's what you want. You want to inspire people. Every single person has their unique story. Some people can handle certain traumas better, not that they should go into it, but they're able to handle it better because they went through so much, where others are able to handle it. Doesn't mean that their trials are worse or better off than somebody else's. It's our journey is completely different, and this is why we should treat people with kindness because you never know the kind of burdens that they're carrying and how they're carrying it. And who is around them that's uplifting them or encouraging them. Maybe they don't have anybody and they're doing it all alone and they just feel all alone carrying this burden, and so they're doing the very best with what they have. So you just never know what's going to happen. You always want to treat people with the best that you can. And that's why I wrote the title Strength of Scars, because it relates to everyone, not only myself, not those that have physical scar. It relates to every single person. Every person has internal damages in there somewhere.
Yeah, what a powerful message that we can use those scars as an opportunity to recognize our courage and not feel shame about them. That's a really good
Hmm.
message, I think. And as hear you talk, it sounds very inspiring. And I feel like you're on the other side of it, and you've written a book and you have all this kind of knowledge. I am curious, kind of looking back at your story, was there a moment where this thought came to you where you were like kind of overwhelmed and then something came and you're like, I can be resilient, I can choose strength? Was there a moment that you can remember in that story for yourself?
There's a lot of times actually. So, with the situations that happened in my life and the traumas in my life that I had ended up becoming suicidal many times. And I just, there's a lot of thought process on how I could take my life. And every single time that I would try to do it, my dad would always come to me. Either somehow he would find out, I don't know how, but he would just come and like, what are you doing? He was the one that let each of the kids know that they were loved and they were cared for. And just having somebody there that values you, that says I love you, that hugs you, and it means it to you, and they just say something like, "Hey, you are special." Whatever it is that they like with my dad, he would always say like, "You're the most special girl in this whole world." And I'm sure he said it to all my other siblings, but at that moment I needed to hear that. Because when people are just suffocating in their own traumas and just having to hear like, hey, you are seen, like you, not anybody else. I'm talking to you. You're seen. You are loved. Don't let them get to you. That kind of encourages you. And other times, what really helped me is knowing, I don't know how I'm able to, I guess when you get pushed out so much, you have resilience to get back up. And so your mindset kind of changes. It's either that or you're going to just cripple yourself and become a victim and just it's going to hurt you in the long run. So what had happened to me during those time is I was like I told you earlier, I was very competitive. I always wanted to stay up with my peers. Mm, I didn't want to ever be left behind. So I would do whatever I could in my power to stay above, like floating, like you're, so I'm not drowning. So I knew the one person that wanted me to be gone was my mom. So if I were to hurt myself and not wake up the next day and face my new day, I knew she wouldn't miss me. I knew she wouldn't care. And so like that thought process always like haunted me. Like, do I want to die that way? Do I want to die knowing that nobody's going to miss me? Or do I wanna die like, at least I tried, at least there's somebody in my life that said, "Oh, yeah, that girl, she worked really hard. She kept pushing herself, and she was a motivation." And so what like, those are, like, the thought process that really helped me is, "No, I don't want to. I don't want to die and take my own life knowing that I satisfied somebody else that didn't encourage me. That that pleasure would just make them like it's a win for them. It isn't a win. It's a sick kind of win. And yeah, that was what motivated me to not want to do that. Like, okay, you know what? I know I'm better than that. I know I can get over this even though I'm not like out on my own yet. I have to like do what I can, what's best for me to keep going. So again, I used her against me, like for the better.
Yeah, you kind of took that victim mindset and changed it into I'm going to become the victor in a way, even though
Mhm.
you're in a situation where you, at that point, probably didn't have a lot of power because you're a child, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And now you've taken that strength and you've gone from a voiceless kind of victim or someone who was a child, and now you're helping others find resilience. Was there kind of a time when you thought, I'm ready to make that shift?
Yeah. So it wasn't too long ago when okay, so I wrote 4 books.
Okay.
Okay, so my first book is published, Strength of Scars, and my second book is called Letting Go. And letting go really is when I became aware of the abuse that was happening in my childhood and that it was abuse because I like back then we didn't have like the internet wasn't as vampant and there wasn't like a whole lot of like help that you could find or resources like you can now. And so I just felt sheltered in the trauma that I was going through and didn't have the help that I needed. So letting go is my second book. It brought awareness. And once I became a mom, that is when everything shifted. That's when I realized like, "Hey, I would never treat my child this way, the way that my mom did. This isn't okay." And so that's when I recognized what the abuse was happening. And I also recognized that I was still her. And there's a lot of healing that I had to go through. And when I got pregnant, that's when I knew I needed to fix it, or else I would repeat that generational mindset onto my child. I didn't want to do that. So I was willing to go in and reflect and do some deep work to overcome and go through the process of healing and forgiveness and learning to let go. That's where letting go comes in. And then the third book is called "It's Just Temporary." So as soon as I learned how to overcome a lot of things in my second book of letting go, the challenges that I faced still came in different forms, but it was a different mindset. I realized, like, I could handle this, things that came to me. It's like, "Okay, you take it one day at a time. I can do this." And the thought of being able to use the things that I applied in my book, Letting Go, made it really easy when I started realizing it's just temporary. All the things that we go through in life is just a season of trials. And if you have that mindset and knowing, hey, it's just a season, and just like any seasons, they come and go. And so try to take what's happening with you as a grain of salt and make it the best. Do your best with what you're going through and look forward to that change of letting it go. So that's what my third book is about, and my fourth book really encompasses it's more of a self-help book, the fourth book. It's called Going from Old to Gold, and that book re does, like, a reflection of, like, the different settings that happened in my first, second, and third book and how I was able to handle it, and it teaches people the different abuse that's happening in our life. And so I use this one method that I came up with. It's called the I shed method, where first you have to identify the problem within yourself. You have to go deep inside. Even though it might be painful, there's so many people that's gone through so much hardship and it can be painful to go inward because it could be a nightmarish, like going in work, but you kind of have to heal yourself. You have to identify the source, you have to recognize it, and then you go through. You have to have hope. So you go through the shedding process. The S stands for survived. H stands for hope. You need hope, like a goal, and knowing that you're going to overcome something. Because having a hope that you're going to heal from it, you're already recognizing that you survived. And then E stands for empowerment, recognizing that you went through so much and you're going to use that as a tool to empower you to overcome what you've gone through. So it's a mindset shift. And then D stands for discipline. You're going to be repeating this I shed method a lot in different areas in your life. Maybe in one situation, it might be more than more than once because it could be really sensitive. But as you go through this eye shed method, you'll realize later that you're actually de-shedding all this internal stuff that you're going through. So the ick, so think of it like a man that someone that's smoked their entire life and they have black lungs. And every single time that they're working on, okay, one day I'm not going to smoke and I'm going to have these goals to try to quit smoking. Maybe I'm going to start taking stuff internally, maybe some vegetables that can help um like clean out my lungs. So stuff like that. That's kind of like what you're doing in your traumatic events. It's you're just trying to maybe read books that's going to help lift your spirits. Maybe it's a journaling that's going to help you take out what's inside of you, purging it out onto paper. There's so many different events that you're going to have to do to help shed this method and to heal yourself. And eventually, you're going to go from old to gold. You're going to be renewed just like the smokers. They're eventually you can reverse that black lung and make it healthy. And it's the amount of effort that you put into it. And then seeing like your self-worth, like if you're worth it, you will look ahead in your future and see where you want to become and who you want to become. And you're going to use that as a motivation to push you. So that's my fourth book is just literally just the step of recognizing any abusive traumas that you're going through, how to overcome it using the I should method, and ways that you can get help. Yeah.
Yes, and so you've written actually 4 books, which I wasn't aware of.
Mhm.
Actually, I thought only one. So that's really you really have gone through a journey with this discovery, and I think like you said before, it's a really big mindset shift. And your books each have their own kind of theme as you worked through different things. I'm kind of curious, as teachers may read your books, is there one takeaway that you would want to share with teachers, teachers in general who are thinking, how can I take this information and benefit myself as a teacher?
Okay, so I think one of the things that really helps, but I'm not sure teachers really know how to go about it is treating each like coming into a workplace, okay? Knowing that your profession, you chose that profession because you want to make a difference in somebody else's life. So again, teachers, this is a mindset change for you, shift for you. Is I know it could be overbearing to teach a lot of kids over the years, and it can be draining mentally. It can be mentally draining because you're taking on different personalities, you're taking on different people's pretty much garbage that they have from home and they're bringing into their workspace. There's so much that a teacher takes in. And how I just first of all, I just want to thank teachers for even taking that role because it's not easy, especially when you have so many different levels of students that could be chaotic to just a simple good student. But one of the things that I would encourage you is you went into this profession to change students, to help students. And so that is a mindset that you need to always carry in when you walk into your classroom saying, today I'm going to help a student. You don't know who you're going to help, but I will tell you from my experience, I'm a I'm an observer. I learn from observing and watching. and I see people fall or make choices and go a different direction, I learn from that. I say, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to go that direction, so I'm gonna go this direction." But if a teacher comes in with an nasty attitude, then I'm there's going to be kids that are observers that are going to take that away and say, "I don't know, we had some pretty awful teachers in my days." Just change your mindset and say, "I'm going to help a student. I don't know how it is." And then just focus on just being present. So, like I said earlier, that every single person has different levels of traumas in their life. Some I've noticed, like in my family, my mom was well known in the community. She served the church really well, so a lot of people admired her. So know that there are people that are rich and wealthy that have status, high status, doesn't mean that just because they have high status that their family is picture perfect. You have to treat your kids. Some kids will come in like I did, and you might never know that there's something going on. You just never know. But so it's really important that your attitude is top and that your mindset is top because there's kids watching. There's kids that are wanting to have inspiration. Even those kids that are like it's pretty obvious and apparent. If you have a certain attitude, you never know when that point will change in that person's life. You don't know when that aha moment will happen. Oh, yes, my teacher said this back then. It just clicked to me. You just never know. That's why it's really important you respect your peers on a same level and reach out to a child that's rich and has really good energy and acts everything is going well, reach out to them, say, "Hey, is there anything going on and you need help with?" Just letting them know that you're there. And so that will help them. And if you're doing that with each student and just coming into your classroom and saying, I'm going to make a difference by showing up and having a different mindset. And whoever in your classroom ends up taking it, you changed one person. That's what's important. So come in knowing that you're going to change people's minds and understand every level is going to be different.
Yes, and I think your story from the very beginning of our conversation was just such a good example of that, a teacher who really cared. And I think in teaching, we call it setting the tone of a classroom. So I think that's kind of also what you're referring to is coming in and setting the tone because kids
Hmm.
are always watching. They're always watching to see what we do. And it creates, hopefully, like you said, for some people, for some students, it may be the piece of calm in their life to come to a classroom. That's our hope is that our classrooms would be
Hmm.
the calm that they need as they move through their day. So yeah, yeah. Are there any other insights from your own experience that you would want teachers to carry with them into the classroom?
Okay. Yeah, so there was an example I wanted to use, and you'll see like this shift. So when I was younger in elementary school, like like I mentioned, I didn't take the problems into my home space, into my school space. Those were separate. It's when I started getting older and older, and when I got to middle school and we went to a different middle school and seeing new people, and we saw different, I started seeing confidence in other kids and saw that I was kind of behind in a lot of stuff and that I suppressed a lot of things and I started believing all things that my mom said that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't, you know, all these things. And I believed and I took it into my school space at this point. And I suppressed it and it was affecting me in a really emotional level. Like I couldn't keep going. And so I was falling behind even more. There was a teacher like in math. I was I wasn't dumb. But I just needed that right teacher that could understand me. And because I wasn't in elementary school, I didn't have those teachers anymore. I had new sets of teachers, and I had to really start all over and really start building my own self and who I was in front of them. And so, like I said, I was falling behind in math, There was my math teacher was, "You're struggling here. I can't help you." So what he did is he ended up taking a few of us and putting us into tutoring. And in my mind, I just felt like every time I left that classroom with my peers, I knew I was below them, like again, down here. And I had to work really hard to get up here. And it hurt me. And I didn't want to be in this tutoring knowing that I was the bottom with all these other kids. So as you're walking out, kids are smiling at you because they can see that you're the dumb child, dumb student. And I remember walking out of that room and saying, I'm going to come back into this place and I'm going to be amongst you guys and I'm going to be amongst my teacher, understanding everything that's happening in this math room. So I went into tutoring, and this tutor, I don't know. He was old, and my other friends, they struggled with him because he just taught very old fashioned and they couldn't really relate to him. I really loved him. He was grumpy, yes he was, but I could tell that he was volunteering. He wasn't getting paid for this. So I knew that he really cared about students. So in that moment, I said, I'm going to take everything that I possibly can and learn from you. Because, like I said, when I walked out of that classroom, I'm going to go back in there and be amongst my peers. And so I worked really hard. And this teacher, and I'm going to tell you again that every kid is going to learn on a different learning style. I learn completely different from another student, and that doesn't mean that we're dumb. It's just we can't. With my dyslexia, we just can't comprehend certain things easier, and we're just wired differently. Does not mean you're dumb. Like, and here's the thing, and I feel bad for teachers because teachers has to accommodate a lot of student, and they don't have time to like focus on one child and another child, and they have to work on one strategy that's going to help the classroom as a whole. And so during that time that I was working with my tutor, he just taught me in a way that I was able to understand the concept, and it made it fun. And I soon started realizing that I was having fun with the equations, and there was other ways to solve certain equation, and it fit me. And because the way he taught me, and I was able to pick the patterns, and that's the thing, I pick patterns, and I was able to see, oh, this is the easier way. And he didn't get upset with me. He didn't say, no, you have to go by the book. He didn't say that. It's like, okay, you did that, and that's how you went about getting that right answer. Good job. And he encouraged me. And I ended up excelling to the point where I ended up taking college classes, Math 1010, Math 1050, chemistry. It was really hard, but because of this teacher and how he taught, I was able to understand how chemistry worked, and I really was able to advance. So I ended up going back into that classroom, started taking a lot of college classes and passing at the top level of my class.
Wow.
That I just want to encourage people, like, don't think you're stupid because you're not. You just have to, if you can find even a tutor, don't feel like you're stupid that you have to go to a tutor. Sometimes that tutor will help you push you from this to this and believe in you. And that's what really helped me. So I was able to go back to my peers confident and really proud of myself because I had to work really hard to get there. But yes, no, that's what I would say is just give like teachers like that motivation. Like, go into your classroom knowing that you're going to make a big difference, and you just never know what student is going to be paying attention to you. And just always take each day one step at a time. as just be confident in yourself knowing that you're going to change somebody else's life and be happy about it. Like teachers are going to be exposed to a lot of children and you have it in you and you have that right direction to go towards and you're the leader.
Yeah, what a powerful message. And thank you for sharing that story about that tutor because I think listening as teachers, we think we don't know always how much we support and help students, where it ends up. So just hearing your story, it reminds us that just one tutor or one teacher, like you're saying, changed kind of the trajectory of how you saw math. And so that's really, really an inspiring story. So thank you for sharing that. Do you have any other, do you have any final thoughts that we haven't yet covered that you want to share with our audience of teachers?
Let's see. I think we covered a lot of things. I would just again emphasize it's mindset again for the teachers and just wake up knowing that yesterday already happened and all the weight that happened yesterday, just leave it behind. And if there's something that's holding you back, you might have to do the I shed method on yourself and work through it. And remember, we're also human beings and a lot of times we haven't shedded what we went through. And so if there's things that are triggering you that a student's doing or something's bothering you, maybe go identify that source. Do the I shed method yourself so then you don't take it out on your students. So then you can wake up the next day and face the challenges in a positive way and saying, I can do this and honing it and being an inspiration to your student because it's your students that are looking at you. You're the one that's teaching you. And if they can see that you're also trying and you're not perfect, they will feel like I can do this too. Because a lot of times I feel like teachers have to be at like this certain par, like of perfection, but you don't have to. If you could just tell if you can if you could just tell your students that you're also trying and you're working through, and you're still learning as you're growing, that it doesn't end with when you become a teacher, you're still going to keep going, then they'll know I can't quit here because life is always going to teach me lessons and I'm going to keep going. So every once in a while, maybe teachers could just take a break from a certain assignment like math, certain subject, and focus on their mental health. Let's calm our nerves. Let's work on this and bring some motivational stuff that's going to be empowering. So then the next day, maybe they can get a whole bunch of kids that are top notch ready to learn. And sometimes we just have to take that breather and just not worry about a certain subject, take a break and just work on mental health. And I think if we do that every once in a while, it will be a refresher for our students to feel like, hey, I can do this the next day. And the teachers also can say, I really needed that break. Yes, let's move and go forward the next day.
Yes, and I think schools are becoming more open to that because there's different terms like brain breaks, calming times, things like that. I've had people on my show who do somatic healing, talk about how to breathe through things, and then I've also had people talk about brain breaks in different ways. So I think that schools are becoming more open to this idea that creating space for centering and moments for, I guess, calm is really an important part of the day as well. So yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
great. That's really
yeah,
great because that's going to be helpful.
yeah. So, finishing up today, we have some fun questions for the audience to get to know you a little better. You can answer in one word, a couple words, more words, however you want to answer. They're for teachers, but I think that they'll relate to you because you are a teacher. You teach people about, getting from helping heal from their scars. So, first question is favorite teacher lunch or lunch in general?
Okay, so I don't. Okay, here's the thing. I don't have favorite of anything because there's so many. I'll just take food for example. There's so many different kind of cuisines and there's different plates that is really outstanding. So I can't really have a favorite, but so I love food and I don't have like a favorite food.
That's okay. Just everything. Everything's good.
Mhm.
Your best behavior management or emotional regulation tip.
Uh, so I think when I first wake up, I like to wake up knowing that I'm grateful for being alive. The cells in my bodies are working. I'm able to see and I'm able to move my hands and be able to clean and walk, where there's people that don't have these things. And so I like to say I'm grateful for stuff like this because it motivates me to start my day a little bit better because there's people that don't have that, and it helps me to conquer the battles that I'm going to be facing that day.
You kind of already talked about this a little bit, but I always ask teacher that made a difference.
Yeah, I have a few elementary school teachers that made a difference. And like I said, those elementary teachers gave me motivation, and I was able to see certain parts of my state when I first moved in as a award. And so, yeah, I just, teachers are just a great influence. You just never know if you're that influence for somebody else. And just that's why I tell you, like, always carry yourself every day as a new day. And so, yeah, I love this certain teacher. Her name was Mrs. Fulmer. She was amazing.
Last question here is last lesson you taught.
Last lesson I taught was forgiveness. I think forgiveness is one of those keys words where it can be hurtful because you don't quite understand what that is or how it really works because it kind of works for people in different ways. Yeah, teaching about forgiveness is super unique and super adaptable for everyone and can work. It's when we have that open mindset to learn, then we truly will understand what forgiveness is.
What an important message. Well, thank you, Avonlea, for sharing your story and helping us as teachers better understand our students. I'm guessing a lot of teachers want to know where you're at. So, where can my audience find you?
So you can follow me on my social media, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram on Avonlea Lightstone, or you can follow me on my website, avonlealightstone.com. And if you want to read first chapter of my book, there's a place where you could enter your information. I'll send you my first chapter of my book to kind of have like an understanding of what my book is about. Yep.
And I will link the link below this video, or if you're listening to podcast, link it right there so you guys can access it. So thank you again, Avonlea, for coming on the show. And I look forward to hearing from the comments what people are thinking about it. So
Thank you so much, Annie. It's been
thanks.
a pleasure.
Stay tuned for a preview of what's coming up next week on Educator University Podcast. What happens to our body when we keep doing this instead of taking time to rest?
Yeah, it's like what it does is the caffeine and the willpower, they burn us out actually quicker because we're actually depleting the adrenals, depleting our kidneys, and it weakens us even further. But like when we're overloaded, especially teachers are overloaded so much, there's always like a pull to have something to help them.